I'm JD, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe, please hit like, and today we're going to be rebuilding this very old pocket watch. I'm so glad I took this one picture of the watch as I disassembled it. Always smart to do. So I did oil this yesterday, as you probably saw, and I'm going to be reassembling all the gears here in the plates. As I said earlier, there's a couple of screws that needed to be extracted. 2 screws needed to be extracted. 1 screw hole size needed to be reduced in size. This thing had a lot of work to be done. Now, what's really pissing me off lately is that every time I lean back in my stupid chair, it goes down, and I can't figure out why, but it does. I lean back and watch what happens. That's really pissing me off. Now later on today or tonight, I'm going to figure out why this doesn't bong every time it's supposed to. Like at 6 o'clock it should bong 6 times, and it doesn't. Now I had a coffee with my friend Dennis, and Dennis said there's a spring on the top that's on the wrong side of a jobby doohickey. Yes, that is a technical term. So if I move the spring to the correct side of the jobby doohickey, the spring is actually on this side, and it's right where my fingernail is, right there. And that spring should be on the other side of where it is. And then if it was on the other side, he said the other stuff might fall in place and it might work. So we're going to just unscrew this, take the guts off. It can keep running, and I'm going to play with it to see if I can get it to bong. It may have been misplaced or mispositioned while in shipping. So it's a beautiful old, well-working carriage clock, all brass, heavy as hell. So I want to get this thing working again, but that's going to be a little bit later on. But let's get this pocket watch back together. Now helping me today is my assistant, the Myers number 58 movement holder. Yes, that is my assistant. So, and this is my third hand. Wish I had a better echo today. So the third hand, and I'm going to be using the third hand here. Try not to touch any of this stuff with my bare hands because it's all been nicely cleaned. The new jewel setting is in here and ready to rock and roll. You can see it in the middle there, right there. New setting is there. We're hoping that the, I think we're, meaning me, I'm hoping that the end shake is not an issue on this. Side shake looks really good. I'm hoping the end shake is not an issue for this. I do have the balance and we'll deal with the balance later. I just want to rebuild the main part of the movement right now and see if I can rebuild this successfully and see if it winds and stays where it's supposed to be. So this is I don't mind touching the edge of this, by the way, but this is the main part of the movement here. And as I said earlier, or said before in one of my other videos, this is the new click that I procured from Dave Coatsworth from Dave's Watch Parts. The guy is really good if you need to get vintage watch parts. I need to pay attention to how this thing is assembled because these gears go lower than you'd think they'd go. So some of these gears actually fit where you don't think they'd fit, so you got to put them in the right order. So this gear here, I believe, is the first gear to go down, but I'm not absolutely sure. So let's do this slowly. I don't want to screw this up, and I got to see if all the gears are intact and there's no issue. So the first gear to go down, I think, is this gear here, and this gear would go in this position with pinion up. Is that correct? Yeah, I think that is correct. So this would be this is the winding stem here. So this would be the 4th wheel, maybe. Let me have a look and see what this other gear looks like. Yeah, this is the 4th wheel here. So this is the intermediate 3rd wheel. There we go. As I said, I've oiled these pivots already. I don't think I need to re-oil any of them. And I will be oiling from the other side later. So that's the first gear to go down. The second gear to go down is the center wheel, which is actually the second gear after the mainspring. So this goes down right like that. And it should drop. There we go. And interact with this gear nicely. There we go. And then the mainspring barrel needs to go on, and that's already been oiled and jobby doohickied. And this mainspring barrel has got a little bit of a square part that fits onto this gear here. So this is, I want to align that. I want to make sure it's generally aligned before I drop it down. So I think right about there is generally aligned with the wheel, which is the ratchet wheel down below. Now this is a bit trickier because it's all about angles. Of course, I didn't want to drop it down, but it's I may have to lift this up to get this in place. Let me just move stuff out of the way. Now, when you're doing watchmaking, you just want to make sure that you don't hit anything that could get damaged. You can see this a lot better from the side. So that, I think, is in place right now, but it needs to... Oh, there we go. So now the wheel seems to be engaging correctly with the plate. And it has to be a little higher in order to fit properly. So I think that's perfect right there. It sits there, and once I get the top of this movement on, then it'll be pretty obvious if it's working or not. All right, so now this is the fourth wheel that goes through here. It goes in just like that. And then the escapement wheel, escapement wheel, and that's going in with the pinion down. So just put that like this and drop it. Like this. You don't want to put any pressure on the wheels or anything. So the best thing in this case to do is just to drop it. Now it's twisting a bit, so drop it again and re-pick it up with your tweezers. I need to take my Apple titanium watch off before it pisses me off too much. And as I go and approach the hole here, it seems to shift, and then I just have to try again. And there we go. That's in place now. Now, the tricky part here is this. So, what I've done before with this is actually to attach it to the upper plate and then put Rodico on it to make sure it stays in place. So if I look at what position this goes in, I want the pallet fork, so the short part goes on the upper plate. So if I take this like this, move this out of the way here, and show you the way this goes in. I'll just move the camera up a little bit. Sorry for the live action camera work, but so be it. So the short part, which is the back part here, this would go into the hole here, and it would be the other way. So I've again drop it and turn it around. Actually, I can just do this and turn my tweezers around. You don't want to put any pressure on the parts. And this is going to be facing the escapement. So do I have this the right way? I don't think I do, actually. Because the pallet fork, the pallets here need to be facing the escape wheel. and then the end of this here needs to be inside. So if I look at this, I see the dagger, the safety pin here for that facing up, which I think is right. I think it should be facing up, and of course it can't go the other way because you wouldn't have any interaction with the banking pins. Alright, I'm going to turn this whole jobby doohickey around here so I can approach it from the other side. Like that. And I'm taking off my watch. So this is my Apple titanium watch, which weighs way too much, and I just can't put my wrist down comfortably with the watch on. So just get this in here, like so. Just like that. And of course, I'm going to have to tweak the darn thing once I get this properly set up. And of course, I'm touching everything with my forehead. So I want to get a piece of Rodico now, a long piece of Rodico, and use that to fashion a little tiny holding device for this. So here's my little piece of Rodico, and I want to make sure that Rodico is on the correct side. So I've got all the wheels and everything on this side. So if I have the Rodico on that side, it's going to cause me all kinds of problems. So I just want to lay this thing down like this, and enough so later on I can just reach in and pick it up. So I think if I have it like this, I gotta smush this down just a bit here. I want it to stick to the movement here. So I just roll my tweezers like that. And that should be enough to hold it in place. See that? That's a great trick, by the way, if you want to put these full plate movements together and not get super pissed off. That's the only way to do it. So now, am I missing anything from the main part of this movement? I don't know. I don't think so. I turn the light off there so it doesn't blind everybody. There we go. So move that back into view. Now I've got my other watch on here too, which is also a beast. And this is a Citizen Dive watch. That's just massive. This thing is big. Not sure how you classify this, but it's probably way bigger than anybody would ever need. So I'm taking that off too, because it's just pissing me off. It's pissing me off. That's almost an impression of what's his name there. You know, you're starting to piss me off. So who is that? So now I'm going to lay the plate down. I don't think I've got anything else I need to put in right now. So I'm going to lay this plate down very carefully. I'll line it up. And then now I don't have to worry about this, the pallet fork getting damaged because it's already in place. But I'd like to lay this flat, straight down, so all the wheels kind of work. Okay, now it's laying down now, and I can see that this is not bad here. But now I got to get in with my little picky and then tweak this thing. So I'll show you what picky I'm talking about. I am talking about this device here. And I go on the side and then play with the wheels until things drop into place. I'll be back. This will take me a few minutes to do. So I got it all aligned, but taking the Rodico out was a hell of a lot harder than I thought it would be. So I'm going to put the screws in now, and like I said, I had to replace some of these screws. Hopefully they all fit, but I had to basically find new screws because the ones that were in there, the heads were stripped right off, and I had to figure out how to remove the screws, and that was tricky as hell. So these ones here should work without a problem. And if they don't, well, I'll have to solve that problem. But I had tested that before in a previous video I think you saw. But like I said before, whether this all works is a little bit of a trial and error here. My screwdriver seems to be slipping off the head a bit. But I'll get these screws back in place. These old movements definitely have personality. Not sure if it's a good personality, but it's personality for sure. Back it up and then go forward until the threads catch. I think I'm actually looking too close. And my screwdriver is probably a little bit wide for its purpose. Now I thought for sure this one wouldn't be sticking up, but maybe it does. Maybe it does. Now, the question is the plate here, if that's, I think it's clearing. If there's no choice, it has to clear, otherwise there's a problem. So what I'm going to do is get a winding bench key and stick that in here. Got to move this a little bit in order to get access to the bench key here. And I want to make sure that the mainspring barrel is dropped downward to where it needs to be. Oh, there we go. I just felt it drop into place. This is tricky as hell, folks. I'm trying to keep pressure on the barrel while I'm putting this in here. There we go. Now, is it able to wind the barrel? So it is winding the barrel. And if I look at the pallet fork, and yes, it's kicking the pallet fork back and forth, which is a good thing. So I think I've got the mechanism in here correctly. So I'm going to put these screws in here. So I made sure I organized them so the screws are matching, conforming to the shape of the barrel bridge. So I've got them like this. So now when I put these screws in, the screw here, let's get this off the Rodico here, should go right there and screw in nicely. I gotta get myself a bigger screwdriver here. There we go. Okay, that went in very nicely. And I think this is the one where I collapsed the plate a bit so the screw would fit. And let's see how well this one goes in. Feels good. And it's snug. So that's good. Now I want to look inside the movement just to make sure there isn't any leftover Rodico in here from what I'd used to actually keep the keep this in place. So I can see one little tiny piece of Rodico in there that I've got to somehow get to and remove, because that will cause a problem. Usually when you take the Rodico out, there is no issue at all. But stuff happens. I may need to use a needle here to get at that, but I need to clean this off. If I don't clean this off, the Rodico is on the banking pin. I think I got it all. All right, let's see if this flicks back and forth again. It is flicking back and forth, so I think we have success. I can see, I think, a little tiny bit of Rodico on the base of the banking pin, which is odd. I don't know. It's not going to cause a problem, I don't think, because the movement is snapping back and forth, which is nice. So it's working. And when I wind it, just make sure the click was on the right side. I push that in to wind it, and I do that, and it's winding nicely. And then when I do this, it's snapping back and forth nicely. So that's good. So it's working. So I'm going to end this video right here. So the next thing I need to do then is to work on the bounce and put the bounce back in the watch. But the click works for the mainspring. Everything seems to be fully kosher and operating, which is nice. So I'm going to go from there. These screws, the screw did work on this hole here, that worked. These were stripped and I've replaced those screws, and they're nicely put in place, so there's no issue there at all. I do need to oil the top of this watch. I'm not too concerned about oiling it right now because that's not where the face goes. Face is on the other side, but when I take this movement out this way, I got to make sure that I oil these pivots on this side. I can do that right now, as a matter of fact, just to make sure it doesn't get forgotten, and because a forgotten oiling is not a good one. And it's pretty easy to oil this. I usually put a little tiny bit of oil on this post here, and that's where the minute wheel is. And then I put a little piece of oil in the base of the center wheel right there, and that'll find itself around. Then I put a little tiny bit of oil on the mainspring, and again that'll find itself into the groove here. And then I take a little bit of oil and I put it on the this is the escapement wheel, I believe, on both sides, so I don't need to put this kind of oil. I want to put some right here though, and right here. You don't want to over oil the watch, that's not good. And then right at the base of the fourth wheel, I do that normally, let it seep in for a few seconds, and then get a piece of Rodico and then clean up on the base, because you don't want the oil to find its way up towards the seconds hand. So you want to basically make sure that put the oil down and then do a little bit of a cleanup after. And then the last piece of oil I need to put, which is 9010 oil, let me plunge this in here, is right here. That'll go down in there. Go down in history, I tell you. History. So that's good there. And that's, I think I oiled all this stuff before. But pretty sure I did. Looks a little bit grouty, but I'm pretty sure I oiled it all. One thing I do like to do is put a little bit of oil right in there. And that's a crazy cam thing that they invented with this watch many moons ago. And I find that it just slides better with oil on it. You see it just slid back. And these wheels don't necessarily need any oil on them. So when I press that in now, it goes that way for winding, and then it pops back out for setting the watch. You can see that wheel turning will turn this wheel here, and then it's all good. So, but I'm not going to put that in yet. I want to make sure the watch absolutely works before I attempt to do anything. But let me oil the other side here. And these big old pocket watches, I'm going to oil this and then clean it up after. And then the mainspring, Barrel Arbor. And that's not going to find its way into any place that's dangerous, so I don't have to worry about that. So that's that. And then I don't really need to do, and I'll do a little tiny bit of cleanup right here. That oil is not going to find its way anywhere anyway. Leave it for a second to go down the shaft, and then it'll be good. If you over oil, the watch doesn't perform like it should, so try not to over oil the watch. So there we go. There's the movement. If I were to just put the balance together and throw it in, the thing would likely work. So that's it for this particular video, and I'll go back and do another video with the when I reassemble the rest of it. Thanks for watching my channel. I'm JD. If you need any watch work done, let me know. I do it as a hobby, so just contact me at jdwatchservice@gmail.com, jdwatchservice@gmail.com, and I'll get right back to you. Thanks a lot. All right, it never rains, but it pours. So the watch is working, but when I was going in there to get that last little piece of Rodica, which I did, to get it, I used a small E string on a guitar string, just so I could grab it, and this goes all the way in without it interfering with anything. So I did that, and then I noticed that one of the pallet fork jewels is crooked. So I went in, I tapped the jewel slightly, and it moved down. So now that tells me I've got to disassemble this whole thing, and then grab the pallet fork jewel, the pallet fork, and re-shellac the jewels into place, and then start over again. So I'm a bit disappointed right now because I was pretty much done, and I've got to go do that. The watch will likely run, but the pallet fork jewel is loose, and it'll come off at some later date. So I've got to take the power off the watch and basically disassemble the whole thing and shellac the power, the jewel. So it's not done yet. I thought I'd just be able to put in the mainspring or the balance, and everything would run perfectly. It does snap back and forth nicely, which means the power is going to all of the different parts of the watch, which is nice. But that one jewel needs to be re-shellacked. And that's not something you can see right off the bat. It looked like it was fine, but it wasn't. So I have to disassemble this, and I'll do that in a different video, or I'll take it apart and re-shellac that jewel, and then reassemble the whole friggin' thing again. So sorry, but man, this is one painful watch.